The one thing I hope doesn't come from this is this turns into like a love interests thing. Show's been pretty good about not being that kind of show, despite it being like the main thing, the first arc. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Stoneface Reactions. I'm Theta, and we're back with another episode of Yatagarasu. We're hitting up episode 15 today, which should mean that after this, well, there's only 20 episodes left. You can do the math. Again, gonna be sad to see this one go. This one's pretty good. This one is up there with Apothecary Diaries for me, maybe a little bit of Mushoku Tensei. I'd say more Apothecary Diaries. Anyway, we come back as we normally do with a board and some notes. So let's go ahead and hit up that board first thing, where it's a pretty succinct board changelog. I added the physician, Jihei, and Komi. And of course I tied Jihei and Komi together because they were in the scene together. I tied them with a green line. I should have maybe tied them together with a white line. It very much seemed like he was attached to her, but she's trying to get away from him. And not for nothing, this episode is called The Girl Who Lived, which would imply to me that if they were still together, he might not be alive so much anymore. Anyway, that is the board. So on to notes. So that location at the start of the episode appears to be the same location at the end of it. I would think, giving us a time frame of events to be happening in. I mentioned a time frame only because that horse that was trying to peck itself free of its reins at the episode start appears to be missing from the location at the end of the episode. There isn't blood all over the place when our group arrives, seeming to imply that the monsters didn't tear it up, so it must have escaped. The raven that Yukiya fights near the start of the episode didn't have that braid around its middle foot like a horse would, so it's not the same. I think it's only important to figure that out in order to tell that there is no connection between the rabies, sorry, I'm still calling it rabies at the beginning of my note, the drugs, and the monsters. Or the drugs and the monsters. Sorry. Apparently at the beginning of my note-taking section, I didn't know what to say. Because I wrote between the rabies and the monsters, or the drugs and the monsters. It's just the drugs. So, forget me for a moment. Interesting note about the horror scene at the start. The doors were closed. These things didn't bash their way in, as there is no damage at the entrance. If they closed the door behind them to try and ensure that no one left, that belays intelligence. If the doors were closed because this is a thing-style horror, that they were already inside when the killing started, then that could imply that they can transform, much like the ravens can, in which case the threat could be all around us already. There is a lot to read into in that scene beyond just the horror. This has nothing to do with this episode, but I only just thought of it as I was staring at the board trying to figure out if I had everyone's connections right. Shiratama is technically Yukiya's aunt. She's about the same age as him, but was adopted by Genya and is referred to as the third daughter. Yukiya's mother was his second daughter. Either way, in the family tree, that puts her a generation above him. I suppose it's only academic, though, since they don't recognize Yukiya's lineage for fear of contesting Yukima's rise to family head. It seemed like Yukiya was genuinely late on accident due to oversleeping, but at the same time, him looking like the blockhead second son to everyone plays right into his desired appearance of not being a threat to Yukima's rise as the family head. So, it may as well have been on purpose anyways. So, new drug. Makes you feel confident, then drives you crazy. Comes from center, possibly, but is now in the north. Jihei clearly wants to get away from the drug stuff and implies that would mean getting away from center as well. Also, the physician that we saw near the start of the episode looks like the same guy from the prince's story about the drug, seeming to imply he's the guy from center that's now here in the north. It is interesting to know that the prince has only known of the drug for 10 days now. I thought for a moment that when we saw Sumio watering the plants, it might have had something to do with the water idea that I had from the start of the show, but clearly that was wrong. I have no idea what's up with the fires in the hills. Either those are to do with the monsters, meaning that there is an army out there, or a horde, or whatever, or it's just something else yet to be revealed. During the episode, when they revealed that the drug was called SageCap, I mentioned that I thought it was the name of a mushroom. Well, quick double check, it is, though it's a completely edible mushroom. Death caps tend to be found near them, though, and those are the most poisonous mushrooms around. However, I have no idea how that would translate to a drug, nor how that drug could cause these symptoms. So I'm going to lean into just being wrong about this one so far. And I guess Hamio is pretending to be the prince in center, or at least writing letters as him, while the prince is here in the north. I didn't think anything about it when we were watching the episode, but when we go from Somio watering the plants and saying, oh, I hope he comes back, and then we transfer over to someone writing letters, we never see their face, so clearly that has to be Hamio, as we just shown, master of disguise. Anyway, those were my notes, so nothing left to do here but to hop on in and see what we get.
But before we get started,
make sure that you hit the like button,
hit that subscribe button,
comment down below to feed that algorithm.
On top of all that, if you want to watch more shows like this, unfiltered,
uncensored,
and uncut,
as well as some early access stuff,
you can check it out over on the Patreon.
It's just $5 a month, but hey, no pressure.
There's zero pressure in order to do that. It's just a little bit of extra support, and it would be greatly appreciated.
I guess maybe so much for my the door was open thing, considering it seemed to almost bash its way through the whole doorway. Sorry, I'm an idiot. So what, orangutan? Some sort of monkey? Baboon? He said monkey. I guess I'll go with monkey. Was that a, I get a feeling the opening's about to start, so I'm holding off on thoughts. Okay, there we go. It looked like a, what do you call it? Like a roller. Like a, I guess I could made of wood, but you usually see them as stone. God damn it, my mind's going to a mortar and pestle, but you usually see them in like the same spaces. Like a long rolly trough where you put like materials into, and then you roll it back and forth, crushing them out. I guess it's like a mortar and pestle, just more efficient. Because automatically my first thought process here is, if that's here, this might be a place that's making the drugs. But not for nothing, if we think Jihei and Komi are making drugs or selling the drugs, then that might be a reason we see her here. And, what? She went to buy something from what looks like the same place a physician would be, says we're out, and then she shakes a bunch of money at him. So it might have been buying more supplies to make the drugs with. Then what? The two guys that we saw at the place with Jihei and Komi, I mentioned that their little garb thing looked kind of like the monster's fur or whatever. Maybe they do transform. Maybe that was those two, and then they went here to assault this place. Maybe they're selling drugs to the monkeys. And they want to stop to it, and they're killing them. Just because they're monsters doesn't mean that they're monsters. That's just my first guess. I also just saw an umbrella, so... It's gonna be that woman and a kid. Oh no, never mind. That's the guy. Double, never mind. He is the monkey. I had that right. So far, so good. I'm on the ball. This was a the thing situation. They were in the house. Fair enough. I guess this guy had no presence of mind to dodge. Even though he was like clearly winding up the whole time. Because maybe he was fearless. Especially now that he was eating food here last night, so clearly he must have ordered it. Assuming this is the same place that we saw Jihei and Kumi. I mean, at first I thought it was wrong because I thought that was Jihei. Clearly it wasn't, though. Whole village. This is just 2 buildings. Oh, never mind. I guess it was just a bunch of more buildings just off screen. Well, there she is. This I'm just gonna write off Jihei as dead. Not true. You attacked a bunch of people when they tried to assassinate you, and they were Yatagarasu. This also implies that a normal person can't tell the monkey from a raven. I'm telling you, there's gonna be 2 things tied together. The monkeys want to stop the drug trade, and that's why they're attacking. I guess they weren't for loot. They didn't check the treasure chest. Sorry guys, you haven't experienced my serious side before. I'm sure from Yukima's position, he thinks he's the adult in the room. But he just hasn't gone through what Yuki has been through. I would say it was like a nightmare of the worst possible events, but he didn't witness the guards or whoever they were getting torn apart or anything. Yeah, I'm confused. But I would say it's going to be a message about what's going on in the north, but that's the prince. I guess the prince can just ride under the post bell or whatever the hell that means. Okay, this arc. This is gonna be the arc that brings us together after the divisiveness of the last arc.
信じるも信じないも猿がいるのは紛れもない事実。中央への侵入だけは防がねば、早急にタルヒへの道を封鎖すべきだ。相手は猿ぞ。人の道を塞いだところでどれほどの意味がある。この猿は人の形に転身できる。我々ヤタガラスと同様に。
I suppose it at least tells us that there's like legend about this or myth about this.
直ちに派兵の準備を。タルヒにて豪長と合流し、徹底的に山狩りを行ってほしい。接近戦は不利だ。弓と槍の用意を。御意。関所の守りを強化する。少しでも不審な者がいれば取り調べろ。辺境や人里離れた集落で菅生のような異変が起きていないか調査しろ。すべての領地で大至急だ。
Surprised he said join him and not take command of the situation. Again, though, if I'm right, then we're assembling to wipe these people out when they're just trying to protect themselves. I could be wrong, though. Could be siding with the enemy. Of course, they could be going right through the woods. I'm guessing that was one of them.
だからさっきから言ってるでしょ。何も知らないって。だいたいなんで私が縛られて牢屋にいなくちゃならないの？一体何をしたっていうのよ。
無駄口を聞くな。お前は聞かれたことだけに答えればいい。どうして長靴の中で寝ていた？だ
から。
小梅さんでしたね。こんな風に拘束するのはこちらも本意ではないのです。君がヤタガラスであると証明できて、
He's doing his duty, sitting on the panel of 3.
ここから出して差し上げます。
ヤタガラスの証明？
Shape change.
何それ？ヤタガラスじゃなきゃなんだっていうのよ。それに何なの？敵意って。
あなたは菅生の人ですか？
中央よ。菅生は今回が初めて。
中央から何しに？
商売よ。父とお酒を持ってきたの。そしたら着いた途端。
Oh, she hates her dad.
お父上もいたのですか？
ええ。
That puts it all in a weird, completely different context.
私は父と二人きりずっと行商してきたの。
And thus the unpicked up package.
ねえ、もしかして父がまた何かやらかした？言っとくけど私は一切。
その父親は。
Guess I didn't see that age difference. I thought they were together.
そんなこと誰か村の人に聞いてよ。
菅生の人はみんな亡くなったんですよ。
え？死んだ？
That's a weird jump.
猿
I would have just assumed they seeded from the north, you know, something rational.
今山狩りをしながら生存者も探していますが、おそらく君は村で見つかった唯一の生き残りです。
待って、父は無事なの？
今は行方不明としか。
Sorry,
なぜ？どうして？
I think I only mentioned this on the Discord in like one other video I recorded, but my dad literally died like 4 days before Christmas.
そんなのわかんないわよ。
So that just hit sudden and hard.
わかるわけないでしょ。
まったく運の悪い娘ですな。たまたま父親と巣を訪れたばかりに。
Again, knowing that's her dad and not her any other relation kind of changes my context of blaming her or thinking she set something
あ
up.
の子は解放されるのでしょうか。
カラスに転身もできたことだし、出しても差し支えないでしょう。しかし身寄りがないのでは、中央に戻ったところでどう生きていくのか。
それでしたら
About to adopt another kid?
お父様のことがわかるまで小梅さんを預かることにしました。短い間かもしれないけど親切にしてあげてくださいね。何でもお手伝いします。どうぞよろしくお願いします。
Again, I still think she's tied into the drug trade, so... We never did investigate what was inside the package that was, undelivered. Yeah, you're not acting like a blockhead.
あんな風に見張られてはあの子もいい気はしませんよ。
僕には母上の判断が正しいとは思えません。
まあ、なぜ？
あの子が本当のことを言っているとは限らないでしょう。確かめようにも村の人は死んでしまった。父親が行方不明だ。一人ぼっちだとみんな彼女に同情するけど、何か隠しているような気がして。
I mean, that could be the thing, right? That the thing she's hiding is that they were running from the drug trade. And that this whole thing is unrelated, but she can't reveal her business.
子供です。お前と同じ。じゃあこうしましょう。あの子の面倒はお前が見ること。はい。
You'll figure that Azusa was going to be the best character of the show.
話し相手になってあげなさい。母上。遠くから睨みつけてあれこれ気をもんでいるよりマシですよ。
So I think one of the biggest two things I'm going to remember from this show is her holding on to her her husband's bastard son. And now this thing.
我ら以外の生き物が人の姿に転身するなど早い話。ヤタガラスも唯一無二ではなかった。
Again, I gotta think that humans are out there. Otherwise, they wouldn't know to call it human shape. Yeah, maybe I'm completely wrong about them being tragic antagonists or something like that.
塩って どういうこと？
保存食だ。
The fact they're eating and killing the women and children too.
スゴーにいたという旅商人は
どの遺体も顔など判別できたものではない。
でもなぜでしょう。いくら凶暴な猿とはいえ、大の大人が一人も逃げ出せなかったなんて。
村には宴の跡があった。あるいはその食事に何か動きを鈍くするような
There we
が
go.
売られていたのかもしれない。
That's connection.
奴らには知性がある。食事に薬を盛ったり、保存のために調理したり、普通の獣はそんなことしない。
Because they didn't.
ただ食うためだけじゃない。奴らの目的は。
Maybe I'm wrong, but I think Yuki is the one that's wrong. No, well, not about that. Maybe that. Again, I think what's her name shrugged the group only because she was. Because she was selling people drugs.
お耳に入れたいことがありまして。これが結構苦労したネタでしてね。ちょっとやそっとではその千人会
Competition? You have a turf war in the middle of a battlefield?
どうぞ。
ありがとう。
The one thing I hope doesn't come from this is this turns into like a love interests thing.
この前はすみませんでし
The
た。
show's been pretty good about not being that kind of show, despite it being like the main thing, the first arc.
いいわ。あの時は疑われても仕方ない状況だったし。
Again, I think everyone's dead because you drugged them all by selling them to drugs.
ほら、その目よ。朝から晩までまるで親の仇みたいに。私、あなたに何か悪いことした？
いえ、そんなこと
The element of this might be that she doesn't know that's what the cause of nobody surviving was.
すみません。大変なことがあった後だし、君を一人にしない方がいいと思って。でも失礼があってはいけないし、わからなかったんです。同じ年頃の女性にどう接したらいいか。
そう。実はお方様に言われていたの。これからもずっとここで働かないかって。もちろんこの先も父が見つからない場合だけどね。
They're not.
でも私ちゃんと返事しなかったの。だってあなたに嫌われて
Look, even if she fucked up, causing the situation that led to her own dad's death, I'm not gonna, like, focus the blame on her. Mistakes are mistakes. As far as I know, no one forced anyone to take any drugs. You know, unless they poisoned the well, and then forced everyone to take the drugs. In fact, no, that wouldn't work. The drugs make you confident, and then crazy. Not sleepy tired to get killed.
小賢しいやつめ。どこへ隠れようが必ずあぶり出してやる。
Who? Did I miss something? Sorry, sometimes, even though I got my screen turned up to its brightest, sometimes I can still miss things in the darkness. Was he talking about the guy who was selling him information, or was he selling information about a guy that then Toby wanted to find? God, here's the thing. This feels just as complicated as the first arc, which was what, 13, 14 episodes? There's 5 episodes left for this, and I feel like we're going to get cliffhangered in 5 episodes. Be prepared for Yatagarasu Season 2, which, by the way, no information about there being a Season 2. Yes, for some reason I already looked up if there's going to be a Season 2. Thankfully, I saw nothing about spoilers. The expected thing of, as we all know, Season 1 ended, but the main reason I never looked shit up did not end that way. Or, sorry, the information wasn't that way. It's just that it was it was a very well done show that did not get picked up by a lot of people that should have watched it. Which I think I already said before was my fear, that they had more successful shows of lesser quality and that they're just going to move forward with that. And that'd be a real shame, because unfortunately I just don't have the time of the day to read manga.
久方ぶりの中央、懐かしい面々との再会もつかの間。幸也は一路若宮のもとへ急ぐ。白縫が揺らめく森で、少年は神秘の力を見る。次回、藤の矢。
Okay, maybe this is fucking Berserk. Maybe what I said before about the first episode is true. The first episode is going to be the last episode of the show. So the people we saw running, maybe I thought they were children. I can't remember. It's been 15 episodes, and predominantly that means it's been over 3 months since I started watching this. The element that maybe when we saw the Kinyu for the first time, glowing gold, that was actually the prince already. Or not the prince, technically he would be the Kinyu in the term of, like, emperor, as well as Kinyu in the term of, like, the golden raven. Because he was also running with, like, one guy, and my question this entire time was, like, who's the one guy? Because he has 2 brothers. Well, if he meets this guy here, who, Wisteria arrows, whatever, the guy with the bow and arrow, not for nothing, there's a bow and arrow in the ending credits as well. Maybe that's the guy. Maybe something happens. And when I say it's like Berserk, the OG Berserk ends with the first episode, sorry, for a second, Guts, in a bar, in like the long after post of what happens during the show. So maybe this is that. I mean, not the long after post, but the element of the very first part of the first episode was actually showing us where this is all going to end. In which case, it might just be that we don't get a season 2 ever. Because that seems like setup to know that you're never coming back. I think the the Berserk anime pretty well sets up, hey, you want to know more? You better read the manga. And that was the case. I think this is following that footstep. Yeah. I don't really have much to add here, generally because I feel like every thought that I had I said out loud, and it's generally in lockstep with everything I believe is going on. Probably what's going to happen is next time when I write my notes, I'm going to come back with legitimately just the same thoughts again. Maybe not. Time can change my mind. It tends to do so. Yeah. Alright. Well, I guess we'll find out. Because I am thinking I'm going to wrap up right here. It's a pretty short recording, but I talked my way through most of the episode. I'm sure someone out there's like, God, this guy won't shut the fuck up. To be fair, right now, I'm not shutting the fuck up about shutting the fuck up. But, yeah, I think I need to hold it off for the notes, because I said my pieces, I need to put them all together, and then we're going to come back with a more succinct thought process. So, once again, I have been Theta. This has been Stoneface Reactions, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stoneface Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below, and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video, what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?